As many of you may know, running the financials day to day and in the future for your sports organisation can seem like a daunting task. But hopefully with a bit of organisation and planning, it doesn't necessarily have to be an activity which takes up all of your time and leaves you swimming in spreadsheets. We're not going to deal with some deep technical accounting terms today. We can point you towards those resources if that's what you need. Instead, I'm going to share a few thoughts and hints and tips on how to make your role of managing the financials as simple as possible so that you can put your sports organisation on a firm financial footing. So what do we mean by future fitting your finances? Essentially, we mean how to make your role of managing the financials as simple as possible. So how do you make sure that your role in looking after the numbers for your sports organisation isn't a task which takes you forever and leaves you looking at numbers day in, day out? So we'll share 7 tips today on things which might help you in your role. The first point we're going to look at today is really thinking about what matters to your sports club. Firstly, we'd suggest that you step back and think about what does your organisation want to achieve. So what are the goals for you as a sports organisation? That might be that you want to move to a larger pitch, or it might be that you want to encourage more people to join your teams. Whatever it is, if you get clarity on what the goals are, that should help you work out where to focus your attention and what you need to help the club to manage towards financially. It will also help you pick some key performance indicators so you can help to track the progress towards achieving those goals. That ultimately might make your role even more fulfilling. The second point is understanding all 3 of the primary statements. At the core of how the financials for an organisation work are 3 primary statements, all of which are slightly different, but which are linked together intrinsically. So the first is your profit and loss account, which includes information about all of your income and your expenses as an organisation. The second is your balance sheet, which talks about your assets, so everything you own as an organisation, and your liabilities, everything that you owe to someone else. And finally, your cash flow statement, which includes a view of all of your cash incomings as a club and all of your cash outgoings. If you only look at, for example, the profit and loss account, you might lose sight of a liability that you need to pay and fund in the future. The third point is to consider streamlining processes. So you may only have a limited amount of time for this role, in which case, why not try to reduce the admin burden on you? As an example, if you charge people a match fee for playing in a game, instead of asking for that in cash every week, why not move people onto a direct debit? And if you can do something similar with expenditure like pitch rental, that should reduce the admin burden on you and also make some of your cash flow more reliable and predictable. The fourth point is about looking forwards as well as backwards. It's easy with a limited amount of time to fall into the trap of only looking at historic transactions, so looking at last month's bank statement, for example. But the more you can look forwards, the more value you can add to your club and your organisation. So try to look forward at events coming up in the future that you need to fund. Maybe it's buying more equipment or putting on a social event, and work out what you need to do to manage the finances towards that event. The fifth point is about keeping good records. A good accountant loves a good spreadsheet and a good audit trail that provides evidence to back up the numbers. So make sure you keep a good record of everything by filing bank statements, receipts and invoices. It might be a good spreadsheet model will help, or even better, a simple accounting package. But if you make sure that you keep on top of things, it shouldn't necessarily be a massive burden on you. It should make sure that you've got any evidence to help in any disputes, and it should also mean you can hand over some nice records to anyone who takes over your role in the future. The sixth point is getting clarity on your tax status. You might get asked lots of questions about things like whether you are incorporated, what's your charitable status, and what's your VAT status. Now those are important considerations for some of your suppliers, but they're also important for you as an organisation. As an example, your VAT status will dictate how much money you can reclaim on some of the purchases you've made buying sports equipment and so forth. So we'd suggest that this might be an area you might want external advice on, because it can be quite a complex area and one that has a big impact on you as an organisation. We will be filming another session specifically on tax to give you some more in-depth advice. The seventh and final point is don't be afraid to ask for help if needed. Taking on this role is hugely important, very valuable to your organisation. It can also be slightly complicated at times when you have to look at financial statements or lease liabilities. So don't be afraid to ask for help early to get things right from the start, rather than trying to unpick mistakes further down the line, which can become more complicated. So hopefully some of those areas have given you some considerations on how you can put your club on as firm a financial footing as possible without taking up all of your personal time. Well done again for volunteering and playing such a key role in keeping your sports club going and hopefully thriving in the future.